Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Dark Productions podcast, where we talk about film, music, gaming, pop culture, and everything in between. Stay tuned for more. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of the Dark Productions podcast. Today, I have with me Shaun Dar, and we are going to be talking about our favorite television shows of 2020. Shaun, would you like to introduce yourself for our new listeners?
All right, hello. My name is Shaun Dar, and today the show that I'm going to be talking about is a show called Outer Banks. Out of all the shows that I have watched in 2020, there's certain ones that have stood out. There are a lot of amazing shows, to be honest, but Outer Banks has honestly been, well, obviously my personal favorite. So I thought, hey, I want to talk about it. So
I didn't watch the show myself, so I've only seen the trailer because it's. How long are the episodes, and like how many episodes does it have for the season?
uh, I believe it's over 40 minutes for each episode, and there's 10 episodes in the. It's just the first season right now. They are working on the next one now, so just first season.
All right. So yeah, Shaun, tell our listeners about the show and why it's your favorite of 2020.
All right. Well, first it was directed by Jonas Pate and Josh Pate. I have to give credit. They're two brothers that wanted to work together to make something that they loved, and they succeeded. Uh, some of the main actors are people like Chase Stokes, Rudy Pankow. They play people like John B and JJ. Uh, right off the bat, you can see in this show that uh, I don't know the exact place that it's filmed in, but it's this like beautiful paradise sort of thing with like uh, golden like suns or skies all the time, beautiful weather. Uh, it right off the bat, it like pulls you in with that. Even in the trailer, you can see them like surfing and just having a great time. And right after that, right after it pulls you in with that, it gets you into an interesting story, and it's pretty easy to get into. And you would kind of think I was recommended it by a friend, and it kind of sounded cliche to me because it's about a group of friends that come together to that one of them has a father that went missing, and the son thinks, oh, my father's not dead, I have to go find him, and also I'm looking for buried treasure, and it kind of sounds kind of sounds like Scooby-Doo, to be honest, but
Honestly, I watched the trailer and I got really big Goonies vibes from it.
yeah, people have said that as well. I've heard that a lot. But honestly, like once you get into it, the characters are extremely likable. One of my favorites is JJ because he's always just extremely funny. He just doesn't care about what anybody thinks of him. So it'll just say and do whatever, and make a fool of himself in public. It's hilarious. I love all the characters. They're all awesome. But there are three different storylines that actually connect. Uh, Two of them I've already said. Like his father, he thinks he's gone missing. He doesn't know what's happened to him, and he wants to find him. There's buried treasure that they all want to find together, and then the last one is actually a romance story about him and, well, one more thing that you learn going into this in the show that there's kind of two cliques, I guess you would say. Like there's the rich kids and then there's the poor kids, and it's almost a Romeo and Juliet situation with the poor main character John B. Uh, falling in love with Sarah Cameron, this rich girl. And I don't want to spoil too much, but they all interconnect in their own different ways, and it's all like it all becomes like from the start there's just four kids, they're having fun, they're enjoying summer, it's a great time, it's you want to be with them, you're jealous because their lives are so awesome. And then it goes into like the last episode, it feels like the biggest like action movie because it just you get so invested in these characters and so much happens in just 10 episodes that it doesn't feel like too much, but it's so cool. I know I'm being vague, but I really love it. Awesome to me.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, I haven't seen the show myself. I actually I just don't have time to before I was set down to record the podcast. But just again, watching the trailer, one thing, like you said, that it sounded very cliche, just as far as like, hey, let's go find buried treasure, and oh, my dad's missing. One thing I've like kind of gathered myself though is that Like I love cliche stories because I
Yeah,
feel like they never get told anymore. Like every new show lately has to have like some intense, super complex, exposition heavy storyline. And really, I'm just here. I want to see like the knight slay the dragon. I'm here for that. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, absolutely. I think it totally is like almost a refreshing take to be honest. Like it seems like just once you do get into it, it seems like still so different, but not complex like you said. It doesn't feel like some that you have to do 10 hours of research just to understand the characters or anything.
For sure. Yeah, I like simple characters.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, very interesting choice, Sean. I'm excited to begin watching that show. And can you once again, just for our audience, say the name of the show
Yeah, the show is called Outer Banks.
and where can we watch it?
It's on Netflix. Just the first season is out so far.
Okay, so let's switch gears from a let's. I've never heard of that show before. Where you start talking about it, let's switch to more like a mainstream audience show. One that you've actually, I kind of called you out here in the middle of watching the latest episode. We're going to talk
Yeah,
about
yeah.
The Mandalorian now, directed by showrunners are Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, who you might know from Marvel Entertainment, and then the Clone Wars TV show that premiered from 2008 to about I think 2015. That actually was started up again back in earlier this year for the final season.
I was actually surprised. The not the episode I'm watching now, but the one before, I think it was like it's like directed by Bryce Dallas Howard. I didn't even know that they switched directors like
Yeah, so
for whatever
actually,
show was.
Mandalorian is a really interesting show. They for the first season they brought on a bunch of different directors. I think Taika Waititi, Bryce Dallas Howard, a couple other I don't have the names of right now, but I definitely encourage our listeners to go research more into it. There's actually a documentary about the show's like inception and creation that is actually at the end of every episode. It's like set up for like what to watch next, and I definitely encourage people to watch it because you get so much more info and like why people love this show so much, or like why I should say the showrunners love this show so much. Uh, yeah, I don't know, it's like I can't talk enough about how great this show is. I said like I liked earlier. I mentioned that I love simple shows that have like a simple plot line, easy to get into, easy to understand. Like kind of like I said, the knight slaying the dragon. Well, that's pretty much what this show is on an episode to episode basis. Uh, at the very least, the first season, you could like get into it without having seen any like the other movies or whatever. Basically, you just kind of go in like, hey, these are the laws that set up. You're a bounty hunter. You're a Mandalorian. You hunt people for money. But what I like about this new season now is that it's actually dipping a little bit into the lore of Star Wars. Like I said, that Dave Filoni, he show ran the Clone Wars, the animated show. I think it was from 2008. Like I said, about to 2015. And what I like about that is that he's like taking bits and pieces from that show and inserting them into the Mandalorian. Like the latest episode that came out at the time of recording this podcast was titled The Jedi, directed specifically by Dave Filoni, and it reintroduced Ahsoka Tano into her first live action form, something that's probably the most anticipated moment for Star Wars in 2020, despite literally everything else this year. But no, it's like I can't talk good enough about how this show is. Just like the way it's like how well it's directed. But what I do want to like kind of point out about this show, like beyond all that, is that something that Pedro Pascal, the main character, the guy who actually plays Mando, or I should say Din Djarin, is Mando's real name. Spoiler alert, by the way. Uh, what I want to talk about with the show is that despite being such a simple show, it's getting people excited about Star Wars again. And the way that was said by Pedro Pascal was that despite the fact that the show itself is like super amazing, the thing that's got everyone's attention is this tiny little like half a foot puppet. Of course, I'm talking about Baby Yoda. Personally, like I'm a bit like I'm almost biased against him just because I'm such a huge Star Wars fan and like a nerd for all the lore and stuff. Where the tiniest thing from the episode will get me like out of my chair and like excited, but then I'll go on Twitter after the episode and everyone's just talking about this tiny little cute Baby Yoda moment. I'm out here like, oh, come on, guys, please, something else. But no, I definitely appreciate what he said. That like he's so happy that despite the fact that he's getting less attention, he's so happy that people are just getting excited about this universe again after what I'd almost say like the failure of the sequels was, because it just caused, whether they're objectively good movies or not, you can't deny that it very negatively impacted the Star Wars universe, like not universe, Star Wars community, because so many people want to return to old purist days, and some other people want to like see it completely changed. And I don't know, this is definitely the nicest middle ground I've seen, where it can really just, it's so inviting and welcoming to all fans that I
I mean,
definitely encourage anyone and everyone to start watching it if they haven't already.
yeah, I mean, I haven't even watched the new movies except for like the first one that came out, and I still absolutely like was excited and still am excited every time like I see a new episode of this, because I may not know anything really about the new story, but it's just, this feels like what Star Wars fans would want, I would think. Maybe like this just feels like a really really cool story, like just concept, and like every moment you watch I just feel excited to be watching it.
Yeah, for sure. I could like go in and talk for hours about every little aspect I love about it. Like I said, I love how like he's inserting bits and pieces of lore. I could talk about how they like change aspect ratios for certain action sequences, like they did in the very first episode of this new season. I could talk about the costume design. I could talk about like the, not the latest episode, but the one before that. They actually had a funny blooper where there was a guy who accidentally stayed in the shot wearing just a t-shirt and jeans, and the
Oh
internet immediately spotted that. I didn't even notice when watching the episode. I found it on Twitter after the fact. But
yeah,
I love it. I love the little idea that like no one really cared. Like I remember when Game of Thrones season 8 was coming out, and people loved to point out every accidental like coffee cup that was left in frame, but and like people were like criticizing it like very negatively. But for this show, people are like looking at it and be like, ha, classic Mandalorian. I love that so much, because like if this was like one of the sequel movies for Star Wars, no one would ever let them forget that. But now it's Mandalorian. People are just like, ha, funny, right?
I love to see that. I love to see something just surrounded by love like that. That's awesome to see.
For sure, yeah.
Honestly.
It's like, if I had to like describe it in one way, and I could be completely off base for this, but I feel like the Mandalorian is like the golden child for Star Wars, whereas the sequel trilogy is kind of like the
Like me in the family.
the what? Sorry,
Like me in the family.
exactly. Sean, it's the Sean Dart of the family. Where
Okay, yeah.
now that's an inside joke. No, our listeners don't understand that. Attention to our listeners. Sean is definitely disliked by everyone and anyone and everyone. So if you ever see
I'm
him in public, feel free to like slap him or something,
yeah, I'm the youngest brother, so it's
or
like
yeah, like throw a tomato
molding
at him.
material. Heck yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Yeah, Sean, thank you for coming on to the podcast. I'm so happy I could once again invite you on to talk about these shows, because you definitely like to pick stuff that is not mainstream, and it's so
Yeah,
fun
no,
to listen to. Like his the Outer
I
Banks.
appreciate
I've
it.
sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. I love talking about like these kinds of things, and I mean, I never even would have heard of this if my friend hadn't told me about it. To be honest.
Yeah, for sure. Like there's so many movies I love to recommend to people that aren't mainstream,
Yeah.
that I don't know, it's just like stuff like that makes me happy. No matter how bad a show or movie might be, I always find some reason to like it, and I just love talking about it with like friends or family.
Yeah.
But it's that's also part of the reason I like this podcast so much, is because we can just both talk about the raw elements of these shows that we love, you know?
Yeah. It's really cool.
Yeah, and
I
like
like it.
once again, like the Outer Banks, I've never even heard of that before. You like brought up how you wanted to talk about it in this podcast, and now I'm out here literally kind of queuing it up for my Netflix, and
Yeah.
like getting excited
I
to
hope
like
so.
sit down.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I, if I can make one person like watch this show, and have an enjoyable time watching it, I think I've done my job. I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, yeah, I like especially what you said at the beginning, where you have these two brothers, Jonas and Josh Pate, who directed Outer Banks, and how they accomplished their dream to make this
Yeah,
show. I can only imagine how much struggle they went through.
Yeah,
Just
I haven't
to
read too much up on it, but it was like they were really proud to be like brothers directing something that they loved like this,
yeah, for
and you
sure.
can see the love in it.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think I can only name like one of the brother like group of brothers that have been that successful. Now, obviously, I'm talking about I'm blanking on the name. They're the Marvel directors. The,
Yeah,
the ones that direct
Anthony Giarrusso,
Drew the Russo brothers. Yes. That
but
how did
I don't know the other one.
how did I blank on that? They're so famous.
I'm not completely sure. They're still making
Yeah.
movies.
No, for sure. It's so interesting to like hear these stories about these people that come up. But yeah, no. Once again, Shaun, thank you so much for coming on the podcast to talk about this.
Yeah,
I
thanks
uh,
for
I hope
having me.
our listeners are able to find some reason to kind of queue up these shows, same as me.
Hopefully,
I'm sure there's again so much that you've had to skip over, just talk about, just because we have to condense our time. But
yeah,
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 no,
absolutely.
it's so nice. All right. Thank you everyone for listening. Have a good rest of your day. Shaun, you have any
Thank you.
closing statements?
Uh, Man, I try all forms of media. Like, there's a lot of good shows that either it's as popular as The Mandalorian or or Outer Banks. I mean, try to watch what you can because you never know when you're gonna find a gem like this.
All right, you dang right. Thank you for listening to the Dark Productions podcast. I will see you all next time.